This could be a rough final months of this Orioles season, but there's still going to be stuff to watch. Not just every Trevor Rogers start, but some other things you should keep an eye on. We'll break those down coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Thursday, August 7th, 2025, and welcome back in to the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb. And coming up on today's episode, we are going to recap the Orioles' 5-1 win over the Phillies on Wednesday afternoon as they avoided the sweep up in Philadelphia. Get you the 5 things you need to know from that one, including another great start from Trevor Rogers, some big swings from Coby Mayo, and a heck of a relief outing from one of the newer Orioles, Dietrich Ends. Then we're going to talk about what to look for in the final about 2 months of this season. The Orioles, we know that they're out of the playoff race. We are not going to be in a pennant race here in August and September, but the Orioles plan to be in that race again in 2026. And I still want to watch these games, and I know you all do too. So what is there to watch for? Even if the Orioles are probably still losing more than they're winning down the stretch, we'll talk about the top 5 things you want to watch out for in this final stretch of games. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast. Before we get there, though, just did want to thank you for making Locked On Orioles your first podcast listen of the day. We're free and available on all podcast listening platforms, 5 days a week, wherever you get pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. If you could follow the show, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and a review. It really helps us out. And of course, we're here on YouTube as well. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. And if you have a mailbag question, if you want to talk Orioles, have a question about the show, feedback, whatever it may be, you can always email me, lockedonorioles@gmail.com. And if you do have those mailbag questions, we are actually going to be doing a mailbag episode for our final show of the week. Of course, the Orioles are off here on Thursdays. They return home to start a series with the A's on Friday. And I'm going to do a live mailbag episode tonight. Haven't locked down the time just yet. Probably going to be about around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be live right here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. If you jump in live, you're going to be able to throw your questions into the chat, and I'll be answering them for 30 or 40 minutes. But if you can't get there live and you do want to send in a mailbag question, you can always email me as well, and I'll try to get to it on the Thursday show. So that is coming up. And the other thing here on the show is over the last couple of days, I got a new microphone. If you're watching here on YouTube, you can see kind of different mic position. Still feeling out where exactly the best place to put the mic, how to make it sound, whatever it may be, but did a small microphone upgrade as the last one lasted me years and years. I want to try to get you all the best audio here on the show as well. So if you see it, you hear it, you do have any feedback about the microphone, you can always email me as well, lockedonorioles@gmail.com. But let's jump into some baseball. We got to see a win on Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully you got a chance to maybe watch some baseball at work on Wednesday, but the final score from that one, the Orioles 5 and the Philadelphia Phillies 1 in the final game of this 3-game set, an afternoon special in Philly, as the O's, after dropping the first 2 games and scoring a combined 3 runs in those 2 games, they avoid the sweep with the win and get to 52 and 63 overall on the season. I'm going to get you the 5 things you need to know from that O's win on Wednesday. And the first thing you need to know is Trevor Rogers is just, there's not much more really to say about Trevor Rogers at this point, other than he is one of the best starting pitchers in the major leagues right now, full stop. And especially since he was called up to make his first start of the year back on May 24th. There have not been many starters who've been better than Trevor Rogers in that stretch. And, he wasn't as good, right? We saw him dominate 8 innings of 1-run ball Friday in Chicago. He wasn't as good on Wednesday as he was there. Was facing another good lineup in the Phillies, but he was good in a different way, that there were times when he got himself into trouble and he got himself out. Started in the 3rd inning, 1-out triple from Trey Turner, probably a ball that might have been misplayed from a single into a triple by Dylan Carlson in center field. But you got a runner on 3rd, 1 out, and you got Schwarber and Harper due up. The goal should be only that run scores and I escape the inning with the 1 run allowed. Rogers looking higher than that. Epic at-bat between him and Schwarber, ends up striking him out on a lefty-lefty changeup, then gets Harper to ground out to Jackson Holliday and gets out of the inning and puts up the 0. And then in the 5th, that was some of the best pitching I've seen from an Orioles arm in a while. 5th inning did not start the way Rogers wanted it to. He had a 4-0 lead. He walks the 8-hitter Weston Wilson on 5 pitches. Next pitch, Rafael Marchand, the 9-hitter, the backup catcher, shoots a single the other way. Phillies get first and third, no outs. Then Trey Turner, a little end of the bat change up, just kind of dunks a soft little pop up into center field for an RBI single. All of a sudden, it's 4-1. Runners on first and second, nobody out. Here comes Kyle Schwarber, 40 home runs on the year, representing the tying run. And you're worried, oh, here we go. This lead is going to be erased. And Rogers just bears down, strikes out Schwarber again with a nasty left-on-left changeup. Gets Bryce Harper to hit into what should have been a double play ball to second base, but Jackson Holliday's feed wasn't very good to Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar couldn't get the ball out of his glove, so the Orioles only get the 1 out. But then he just attacks Castellanos, goes 0-2, gets a ground out. Gunnar makes a really nice play at shortstop to end the inning. And after all that, he only gives up the 1 in the 5th, gets into trouble and gets out of it in the 6th to finish off his outing. And he wasn't as dominant as we've seen. But you look up, and it's 6 innings of 1-run ball, 8 hits, 6 Ks, 2 walks on 104 pitches. And he's now got a 1.44 ERA in 10 starts this season. It's mesmerizing to watch him pitch at this point. I mean, to think about where he was last year in the 4 starts with the Orioles after the trade before he got sent to AAA and what he is now, it makes you think, like, I mean, what if he didn't sustain that knee injury in the offseason that made him basically miss the first, 6 weeks or so, at least the first month, and then he was kind of rehabbing in AAA? Like, what if the Orioles had Rogers in their rotation from day one? How different would this season look? What if, even at the very least, when they went to Kyle Gibson in late April, what if they at least could have then gone to Trevor Rogers and you would have had 4 starts of Trevor Rogers instead of Kyle Gibson? That might be 4 more wins. You get a few more Trevor Rogers, 5, 6 more wins. This season is still not great, but if you give the Orioles 5 or 6 more wins right now, you're looking at a team that's right around 500 and still in a playoff race instead of a team that is truly out of it. I mean, that's the kind of just adding to the bad luck the Orioles have had this season, but Rogers has just been great. And you look at pitchers around the league who have thrown since May 24th at least 50 innings. So you're taking a look at the guys who have been out there most of the time. And Trevor Rogers at a 1.44 ERA has the lowest of them all. It goes Matthew Boyd, Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens, Christopher Sanchez, the next 4. But if you've thrown 50 innings in that stretch, nobody has been better ERA-wise than Trevor Rogers. It's been absurd what he's doing, and he's still getting hit hard, right? There's still plenty of hard hit balls by the Phillies on Wednesday, but it's all hard contact on the ground. Nobody's squaring him up. They're not hitting homers against him. He did walk 2 in this start, but he's rarely walking anyone. The 4-seam fastball, I mean, it didn't play as much as a swing and miss pitch on Wednesday that it did Friday in Chicago, but he still went heavy fastball and heavy changeup. That was most of what he threw. He pounded the zone. He was about 70% in zone rate with the 4-seamer. He also threw 8 lefty versus lefty changeups, the most he's done in any start since April of last year. The changeup is usually a weapon against righties, but he was throwing it to Schwarber and Bryce Harper, and they just didn't see it coming. And another just fantastic start from Trevor Rogers. And we're going to get to later on this episode, like the main things you're going to want to watch for the remainder of this Orioles season. I'm going to talk about 5 things. They're going to be the 5 things maybe below Trevor Rogers, because the obvious thing is at least every 5 days you can watch Trevor Rogers pitch, and that is a lot of fun to do right now. That's like number 1 no matter what on the list. I'm going to talk about the next 5 things after that. But the second thing you need to know from this Orioles Wednesday win is that the O's had a huge 4th inning. It was lefty Ranger Suarez, hopefully a future Oriole and pending free agent, who's had a 2.6 ERA on the season, really tough lefty. O's have struggled against lefties, but it was a big 4th inning, a 4-run 4th for the Orioles, put them up 4-0 in this game. Started with singles from Gunnar and Adley. You absolutely love to see that. Then an RBI double down the line from Jeremiah Jackson put the O's up 1-0, his first extra base hit in an Oriole uniform. He's hitting 278 since being called up on Friday. He's been a nice offensive addition. And then you get the big swing. The third thing you need to know from this win is that Coby Mayo had the huge swing in this one. A 3-run homer off of Ranger Suarez, made it a 4-0 game, all with no outs still in that fourth inning. He got a changeup right down the middle, and Mayo jumped all over it. 109 off the bat, went 421 feet for the furthest home run of Mayo's big league career. He hit plenty that went further in AAA and below in the minor leagues. But this one, he just jumped on a pitch down the middle, and that is the aggressiveness you want to see with Coby Mayo. He's definitely cut down on the swing and miss and cut down on the strikeouts, which has allowed him to be a more useful big league hitter this year, but he's still going to have swing and miss and strikeouts in his game. If he can jump on pitches early, can avoid even getting into 2-strike counts, he's going to have more success. You see a first pitch changeup down the middle, you clobber it, and that is exactly what Mayo did. Also had a single later in the game for his 6th career multi-hit game. Mini slump, I would say, is what Mayo was going through before this one. He did have a hit on Tuesday and on Monday, but kind of before this Philly series, he had a little 0 for 12, 0 for 16 going. So 3-game hitting streak, 4 hits total in this series in Philadelphia. Love to see that for Coby Mayo, who continues to get some good playing time here. And it was a little surprising that we still haven't seen Ryan Mountcastle. We thought we'd see him as early as this weekend in Chicago. Then it got pushed back to this series against the Phillies. Now, hopefully he'll be back at home against Oakland this weekend. But even when he does come back, I mean, you still got to play Mayo in there every single day, and he is certainly getting his chances. Fourth thing you need to know from the Orioles win over the Phillies on Wednesday is that Alex Jackson put himself all alone in the MLB record books. Jackson, who got the start behind the plate with Rutschman DHing day game after a night game on Wednesday, came up in the 7th inning and scorched a double down the line in left field, and later scored on a Jackson Holiday RBI single. Nice insurance run to put the O's up 5-1. But the double from Alex Jackson, probably more important, because that means that is his 9th hit in an Oriole uniform since the Orioles earlier this season sent some cash over to the Yankees to pluck Jackson out of AAA and add him to the big league roster when the Orioles, at that point, were looking to use their 6th catcher of the year because they had 4 catchers on the injured list. And none of them really stuck, right? Chadwick Tromp is out of the organization. Jacob Stallings is out of the organization. Gary Sanchez still on the IL. Adley Rutschman is back. David Banuelos is in AA. But here is Alex Jackson, who is sticking. His 9th hit as an Oriole was that double in the 7th. And the cool thing about it is all 9 hits have been for extra bases. Doubles, triples, homers, no singles yet. That is a new big league record for most consecutive extra base hits for your first hits with a new team. Simply put, no player in recorded history has had his first 9 hits with a new team all go for extra bases. Jackson was tied with 2 other players with 8. He makes it 9 with the double on Wednesday. Now, the data for this only goes back to 1974, so it might not be an all-time record, but every year we get more and more of a power-heavy environment. So it is possible that even going back to, 1901 or whatever it may be, no one's ever had their first 9 hits with a new team go for extra bases. And for Jackson, he was up in the big leagues for a while last year with the Rays. He had 10 total extra base hits in 155 plate appearances in Tampa Bay last year. He's got 9 of them in 40 plate appearances with the Orioles. He is certainly swinging the bat well. He's been solid defensively. The Orioles have said that Gary Sanchez, who's dealing with an injury, will be back at some point in September. There's already been video of him swinging a bat. But at this point, Gary's on a 1-year deal. He's a veteran. He's set to hit free agency. The Orioles are out of it. I would just release Gary Sanchez when he gets healthy. For one thing, to allow him to maybe sign with another team, get closer to a playoff push, help somebody else. He's not really helping the Orioles that much at this point when they're not trying to win. But also to give that room so you don't have to think about DFAing Alex Jackson, who is out of options, and losing him, and just having him continue to be your backup catcher for the rest of the year. And that allows more space to still carry the 3 catchers with Rutschman, Jackson, and then hopefully having Samuel Basallo on the roster in September. So really for that, and Alex Jackson, he could be vying. There's a certain chance he could be on the Orioles roster next year as they, maybe carry 3 catchers with Rutschman, Basallo, and Jackson. And it's benefiting both parties, right? It gives Sanchez a chance to play more on another team, build up his value for when he hits free agency again this winter, and allows the Orioles to get more of a look at Alex Jackson and think about really how does he fit into this roster long term. But kind of a cool way for him, former top prospect, hasn't really worked out for a while in his big league career. He's still in his 20s, for him to finally find his way into the record books. And the 5th and final thing you need to know from the Orioles' 5-1 win over the Phillies on Wednesday afternoon to finish that series and avoid the sweep, is that Dietrich Ends was just filthy out of the Orioles bullpen. O's got 6 from Trevor Rogers, had a 5-1 lead going into the 7th. They pull Rogers, and they go to another lefty in Dietrich Ends. Now, this might be the first time you're hearing the name Dietrich Ends. It is only his second appearance as an Oriole. Quietly, while the Orioles were trading away 6 players on deadline day on Thursday, they actually acquired Dietrich Ends for cash from the Tigers, who had been DFA'd earlier in the week when the Tigers were adding pitchers. Now, Ends, 34-year-old veteran lefty. He'd been in the big leagues before, went to Asia, came back, was pitching in relief and a starter some for the Tigers this year. Didn't pitch super well, but he's got some good stuff. And the Orioles brought him in, and he made his Orioles debut Sunday against the Cubs and struck out 3, gave up 1 run in an inning and 2/3 out of the bullpen Sunday. And they went to him because, there's a lot of lefties at the top of the Phillies order, but he gets the top. Like, it's 1, 2, 3, Turner, Schwarber, Harper for his second O's appearance. And he was special in this game. He allows a leadoff double to Trey Turner and then retires the next 6 hitters, 5 of them via the strikeout. To finish the 7th inning, he strikes out Schwarber, Harper, Castellanos in a row. Then to start the 8th, he gets a pop-up from Harrison Bader, then strikes out Otto Kemp and Edmundo Sosa, a couple of righties who hit lefties well, and that was it. Keegan Aiken came in, put up a 0 in the 9th to finish off the win. But what a performance it was. The four-seamer kind of sat at 94, which is a good velocity for a lefty. He hit at 18 inches of induced vertical break up to 20. That is pretty elite ride. 82% of his four-seam fastballs were in the strike zone. He showed good command. His changeup was really good against all those righties, 4 whiffs on 8 swings against that changeup. And stuff plus, it loves the changeup, loves the little cutter he threw, got one of his strikeouts of Schwarber on the cutter, loves the fastball. Like, maybe he sticks. He is in his 30s. He is out of minor league options. It makes him tougher to stick around, but there are innings to go around. We've been saying it time and time again, especially in this Oriole bullpen down the stretch. There are innings to go around. He's been a starter. He can give you multiple innings. He's versatile as a lefty out of the bullpen. I don't know if there's great chances we see Dietrich Ends pitching for the 2026 Orioles, but if he keeps throwing the ball like this, it's possible. And for as many times as like we saw Monday, there are some bad relief outings for the Orioles trying to vie for roster spots, like Corbin Martin giving up 6 runs and not recording an out in Monday's loss. There's going to be some good ones, like what Ends did on Wednesday, helping lead the Orioles to a win over the Phillies. And Dietrich Ends kind of falls into the category of one of the things to watch for the remainder of this season, right? The O's are out of it, but that doesn't mean there aren't important things happening on the field. We'll talk about the 5 most important things you should be watching for. That's coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason, it's already heating up. The Ravens play tonight, I believe, and college football, it's not far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in the game. Now, for me, you take a look at Lamar Jackson, right? He's got a more or less touchdown number. I'm going to blindly take the more on anything with Lamar Jackson that is listed over at Prize Picks. They've even got the flex play option, which is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you can still double your money. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. That's at Prize Picks. Run your game. So the O's got a nice looking win over the Phillies on Wednesday, and that's certainly something to watch down the stretch, right? We are all more likely to watch this team that's having its struggles when they are winning rather than when they're losing, and they played a good, clean baseball game and won on Wednesday against a really good Phillies team. That was certainly good to see. Not every game down the stretch of this season, the final 2 months, is going to look like that. We know that. There's going to be some tough ones, like it was just back on Monday night in the 13-3 loss to this same Phillies team. The question is, what should we be watching for? The Orioles are 52-63. They're like 10 games out of the wild card. They're clearly out of it. It would take a miraculous comeback. They traded away 9 big league players around the deadline. It's just not going to happen. So why still watch, right? Why still tune in? Why still watch the Locked On Orioles podcast? because there are still things that are important for this team, especially heading into 2026. Because the Orioles, it's not a rebuild. They're looking to get back to the postseason and be a competitive team next year. There are some things down the stretch this season that are going to hopefully lead to that. So I picked out the top 5 things, top 5 reasons to still watch this Orioles team, top 5 storylines for this club down the stretch. I would say number 1 is, can the young core of this Orioles lineup, in terms of their position players, finish strong? Now, they've made a lot of trades, but none of their core controllable bats were dealt, right? Jackson Holliday, Jordan Westburg, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Colton Cowser, they're all still here to play every day. Even Tyler O'Neill, he x-rays negative on his wrist, hoping he'll be back in the lineup this weekend against the A's. He's going to be in there as much as they can. And Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westburg are both having good seasons. Westburg has been red hot since the start of July. Henderson's been great for the last 2 months after kind of starting slow. I'm not worried about them. They're both looking like their normal selves the last couple of months. They're in a good spot. On the other hand, you got some guys who have been up and down, some that have been more on the downside so far this season. Like, for example, right, Gunnar's at a 126 WRC plus, Westberg's at a 124. I feel good about that. Then you turn to Jackson Holliday, right? He's been on a little bit of a slump lately. He's down to a 95 WRC plus. Essentially, he's been a league average hitter in playing every day all season. Now, he is still pretty young. You may have noticed that he is still 21 years old. A lot of 21-year-olds are in single A right now, and he is in major league. So there's still plenty of room to grow. And I don't think a league average in a 100 WRC plus year would be a failure at all for Jackson Holliday. But you'd like for him down the stretch to maybe get hot at some point and take the next step. And then you got the other guys who are also kind of floating right around league average. Adley Rutschman, 99 WRC plus. Tyler O'Neill, 98 WRC plus. Colton Cowser's been a little slow lately. He's down to an 89 WRC plus. But they've been performing around league average with the bat as a whole this season. Of course, all 3 of them have had tons of injury issues that have kept them out as well. So you want to see them heat up down the stretch. You want to see Adley rebound. He's starting to hit a little bit more recently. You want to see O'Neill continue to mash, which he's done recently. Colton Cowser, he did have a double off the lefty Suarez on Wednesday. That was nice to see. You want to see him get it going because we really haven't seen a hot stretch from Cowser either. And not all of these names are going to finish strong, but if most of them can, you're going to feel good about the 2026 lineup. There's going to be some young hitters added in that we're going to talk about, and they will probably still, I would think, maybe add one bat who's an impact bat in free agency, but I think this core can still carry them offensively. They just need to show that all together in one stretch down. It doesn't have to be for the entirety of the 2 months, but if we can get, maybe 2-3 weeks in late August and early September where the bats are clicking, kind of like we saw right before the deadline, that would make us feel a lot better heading into next season. Number 2 on my list is you're looking for which young hitters can secure a role in the 2026 Orioles lineup. The 6 guys we just talked about, Holliday, Westburg, Henderson, Rutschman, Cowser, O'Neill, as long as they're healthy, they're pretty much set in the lineup for next year. That leaves theoretically 3 spots open. And in theory, those spots could go to Coby Mayo, Samuel Basallo, and Dylan Beavers. 3 exciting young players. Now, Mayo, as we mentioned, big day on Wednesday. He should be in the lineup every single day and probably switching off between first base and DH once Ryan Mountcastle most likely returns this weekend. And if Mayo can hold his own, even outplay Mountcastle down the stretch, which is a possibility, you can pencil him in for first base in 2026. I mean, I don't think it's out of the question that the Orioles try to find a way to move Ryan Mountcastle this offseason. I don't think they'll just non-tender him and set him free, right? He's a free agent after 2026. I still think he has some sort of bounce back value that they can get something for him if they deal him in the offseason, but they're going to look to do that if Mayo can hold his own in the final 2 months here. Now, I think Samuel Basallo will get a chance this year. I'm probably targeting him being a September call-up, right? You can expand the rosters, add 1 hitter, 1 pitcher on September 1st. My guess is that will be Samuel Basallo. He's just mashing in AAA. I want to see him play for a month. I want to see him settle in, get some of his, rookie 20-year-old struggles out of the way that are going to happen, and get some big league catching experience, right? We talked about Gary Sanchez already. Whether or not Sanchez is still on the team when he gets healthy is going to play into this. Where Alex Jackson falls in, where Adley falls is going to play into this. But I'd like him to catch at least once a week, maybe twice a week in September, play a little DH, play a little first base, find him some at-bats. He's not going to play every single day. It's just they're not going to be able to do it. but get him some reps so he can shake off some rust, work through some ups and downs of his first few big league plate appearances, and get him ready to be on the opening day roster in 2026. And then for Dylan Beavers, he is the most interesting guy. I think his chance is going to come soon. Obviously, a lot of people, he homered twice again on Tuesday or Sunday, it might have been. People pounding on the door saying, when is Dylan Beavers coming to the big leagues? And I get it. He's been great in AAA this year. But what the Orioles are doing, it's become very clear, they're trying to maintain his rookie eligibility for 2026. If he is still a rookie next year and he's on the opening day roster and he finds a way to win Rookie of the Year, same thing for Samuel Basallo, the Orioles would get a draft pick back. And while it seems way more likely that Basallo would win the award than Beavers, did any of us think going into 2024, after his struggles in 2023 and getting sent back down, that Colton Cowser had a chance to win Rookie of the Year? And look what happened. He finished second, and many people agree he probably should have won the award over Luis Gil and gotten the Orioles a draft pick. So Dylan Beavers, not the same kind of prospect Cowser was, but in a similar area, similar zip code. It's not impossible, especially the way he's been swinging the bat in AAA. And so while it is frustrating to see the Orioles right now and have Beavers just sitting in AAA, it's basically 2 weeks from now, essentially. Like if you wait a little bit after August 15th, he won't get enough service time or enough at-bats in the big league level to lose his rookie eligibility for next year. But once he gets that chance, he should play a lot in that outfield. I don't really want them to play Dylan Carlson a lot over Dylan Beavers. He should get a spot to take a look. And you could have this kind of lineup for next year if all these guys hit. Like Holiday at second leading off, Westberg at third, Henderson at short, Rutschman catching, then O'Neill in right field, Cowser in center, Basallo DH, Mayo at first, and Beavers in left field. They're probably one bat short because you can't count on all of Basallo, Mayo, and Beavers to hit immediately. So you probably add one bat in free agency, but that still gives you a really strong and really deep lineup. So I think those are the big position player hitter storylines to watch. There's even more pitching storylines to watch down the stretch. Let's get to those for the final three on my list coming up next. But first, this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast is also brought to you by Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app, they actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting big league game. Maybe tomorrow night, Friday night, Orioles and A's, I will be in the ballpark. And guess what? I bought my tickets on Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So moving on to number 3 on my list of the 5 things you should still be watching for from this Orioles team down the stretch this season. Number 3 is, can the Orioles find some relievers for next year's bullpen? Now, the O's traded away a lot of talented relievers. Brian Baker, Andrew Kittredge, Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and Felix Bautista is currently on the injured list. Now, hopefully Felix is good to go. And even within your Cano's struggles, I think he's still a piece next year. And I certainly think Keegan Aiken will be their top lefty. That really only puts you Cano, Bautista, Aiken as your carryovers for next year's bullpen. You get 8 relievers in a bullpen. That's 3 of them. There are 5 open spots. And there are a ton of names who are going to throw innings down the stretch who are going to get a chance. Colin Selby and Scott Blewett, if they return from the injured list, will throw games. But then you have Dietrich Ends, who shined on Wednesday. You got Yarmil Geraldo, who we've seen. Corbin Martin's gotten a save already. Chase McDermott is looking nasty as they've converted him into a reliever in AAA, and he should be up soon. We've seen a little bit of Elvin Rodriguez. Houston Roth didn't appear in a game and got sent back to AAA, but he's still in the mix. Cade Stroud's been pretty good. Albert Suarez, I think, may still return this season. Grant Wolfram's look awesome. We're probably going to see Matt Bowman again at some point. He's still down in Norfolk. And there's going to be some other waiver claims, right? Rico Garcia was just claimed off waivers. He'll probably get activated to the roster at some point today. And other waiver claims are going to come down the stretch, and they're all going to get some sort of chance. You would think, Carson Ragsdale, another guy who was claimed, they're going to get some sort of chance in this Oriole bullpen. I think with the way the bullpen is set up, you have to find at least two of, I don't even know how many names. It's like 15 names, I think I said. You need to find two of them who you feel confident you can put right into your opening day bullpen in 2026. If you find three, that is awesome. But if you get two, you add them to the three carryovers. I think Tyler Wells, when he's back, is going to be a reliever next year. So you add in Tyler Wells, and then that gives you two spaces to sign some, Andrew Kittredge type free agents to add to your bullpen. And that's pretty good. And then, beyond the two that you get that are in the pen, you probably have three or four more who have minor league options. They start the year in AAA Norfolk, but they're good up and down depth for when you need them. My prediction is that Grant Wolfram and Chase McDermott are the two. And then you kind of rely on the Cade Strouds and the Yarmil Geraldos and the Colin Selbys to kind of be those up-down guys for you. And you end up in a solid spot with the bullpen as long as you're willing to spend on some free agents. So that's why I'm really intrigued when the Orioles go to the bullpen every night down the stretch. Who's going to come in what spot, and how are they going to pitch? What kind of stuff are they showing? What can they be potentially for the 2026 Orioles? Number 4 on my list, what do we get out of the injured starting pitchers? Now, this is not higher because now we know it will not include Grayson Rodriguez. The Orioles announcing earlier this week, Rodriguez is going to get elbow debridement surgery. They're going to go in and clean up some bone chips and that kind of stuff. Again, he is not getting Tommy John. The Orioles say the timeline right now is that he will be ready for spring training 2026. We hope that's the case. You can't really rely on him for next year, but we know he is done for 2025. We're not going to see him pitch all season. But I talked about it at length on yesterday's episode. Make sure to go back and check that one out. Tyler Wells and Kyle Bradish are both pitching rehab games in AAA. I would think both will be ready by September 1st at the latest, like I talked about yesterday. So their starts aren't as important since the Orioles are out of it, but I think it's important they both use the final month and change to kind of knock off the rust, get the struggles out, something that Felix Bautista was not able to do at the end of next year. And even though I think Tyler Wells is a reliever long-term, the O's are going to let him build up as a starter this year just in case you need him. You let Kyle Bradish try and get back to that ace level we saw in 2023. And that's a really big reason to tune back in. I'm hoping late August, early September, they are back. Just watching them out there and dreaming on, hey, them getting back to it and being the pitchers they once were for this Orioles team in 2026. And the fifth thing on this list that I say is why you still want to watch the Orioles down the stretch is a fun battle that is building in this rotation between two young starters, Brandon Young and Cade Povich. If they don't get injured, both guys are going to be in this rotation for the remainder of the season. Brandon Young's getting better with every start. Cade Povich just returned from missing almost 2 months with a hip issue and pitched pretty well Monday night in Philadelphia. Those two pretty much have a spot. Now, it could get a little murky when Bradish and Wells do come back in about a month or so. But for now, they've got spots locked down, right? Alongside what is right now Kramer, Rogers, and Sugano along with them in the rotation. They're going to be pitching down the stretch. And the Orioles might need one of the two of them to be in the 2026 rotation. Right now for next year, you're definitely looking at Trevor Rogers and Dean Kramer. And then it's a lot of question marks. You hope Kyle Bradish, maybe Grayson Rodriguez, and you're looking for at least one free agent signing and at least one big trade to get some big names at the top of that rotation. You'd say, Grayson is number 6, but you can't really count on him. So that's 5, and Bradish is included in the 5. Maybe he's not ready. Maybe he has a setback. That's where Young or Povich can come in. At worst, one of them might enter camp as the number 6 starter, and there's always injuries in spring training. They could immediately bump up to that number 5 spot. And if one of them pitches really well down the stretch, remember, Cade Povich was awesome in September of last year. He was great in spring training. He legitimately won himself a rotation spot to begin this year. Either Povich or Young this time could do the same thing. And I think it's very important for the Orioles, even if the O's go out and they spend and they make trades and, it's Rogers, Kramer, Bradish, it's, Framber Valdez and Edward Cabrera, right? They have an awesome offseason. And Povich and Young aren't in the top 5 to begin the year. And that's not even including Grayson Rodriguez or Tyler Wells. And maybe they're, 7th or 8th on the depth chart. As we've seen from all the injuries the Orioles rotation has sustained this year, you don't just need your sixth guy. You need your seventh, eighth, sometimes ninth and 10th guys in that depth chart, because Brandon Young came into spring training this year as the number 10 guy on the depth chart. He's firmly in the rotation right now in August. That is what can happen. You need that depth to be good. And they're not going to be 9 and 10. They're going to be 6 and 7, maybe 7 and 8 at worst next year. I think it is very important for the Orioles that at least one of these two, between Young and Povich, looks good down the stretch, similar to what Povich did in September last year, to make the Orioles feel a lot better about the starting depth, or maybe even the number 5 guy heading into the 2026 season. But those are my 5 reasons. If I missed anything, if you disagree with any of it, let me know right here in the comments, Locked On Orioles YouTube page, or you can always email me again, lockedonorioles@gmail.com, where you can also send mailbag questions for tonight's live mailbag episode. Looking to go live at about 8:30 p.m. Eastern time right here on the Locked On Orioles YouTube channel. Send your questions ahead of time, or if you definitely want them answered, I can guarantee you 90+% of the questions that are sent in the live chat are going to be answered on that mailbag episode. So get your questions over here. I'll be back for that one live on YouTube on Thursday evening. It'll go up on the podcast feeds on Friday morning, so all you audio listeners can get that mailbag episode as well. And that'll be the last episode of the week here on the pod. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.